How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is a show that's going to fascinate you, fascinate anybody who has any intelligence, because this is a different kind of a show than we've ever done before. It was fun in games, attacks about people, about characters, about situations that are prevalent on a daily basis, making fun of things in our current issues of society. But now we have something that's ancient history, the whole issue of religion and what it means in your life and how to interpret it and what the Bible says and what does it really mean compared to what you might think it means. How have people interpreted the Bible before, and how did Hal Lindsey, who was our guest today, come along and show you new interpretations and new prophecies that he read and found in the significance of the Bible that has interpreted things in a way and in a direction that nobody even thought of before. Or if some people did, they didn't know how to interpret it and popularize it and make it understandable to the average individual, as he has with his array of books that have sold almost 50 million copies. He's by far the highest level of circulation of any books in America. The New York Times said there never was such an unbelievably popular author. Close to 50 million books have been sold. You might have heard of his titles of his books. One was called, what's that, Countdown? Oh, 1980 was Countdown to Armageddon. Then there was the other book, the late great Planet Earth. Then I'm so nervous because I can't get over the fact that I even have him here in person. Then there was the other one, what was the other book? Road to the Holocaust. And each one of these books sold in the hundreds of thousands of millions of copies. It's unbelievable how many books he has sold, because people got fascinated with his thoughts and opinions and the research he has done on this kind of a subject and the conclusions he came to about what it all means. For instance, in Bible prophecy, he finds interpretations that I remember seeing him about 20 years ago in a restaurant in some place in Los Angeles, and I was sitting there talking to him about what he predicts, about what he gleans from his studies. And one of the things he said to me is, I remember at that time, about 15 years before the Russian Empire broke down, he said he sees it in Bible prophecy that it's inevitable that Russia will collapse, that all of communism and the whole state of Russia will cave in. And he also told me at that time that not only will it collapse, but sooner or later, at a later time, there'll be a resurrection of the power and the strength of Russia, and they'll fight for dominance in the Middle East, and they'll introduce their power into the Middle East and eventually become a dominant force in the Middle East. Now I want to introduce to you Hal Lindsey, and I want him to answer this first question. Hello, Hal. How are you?
Hey, it's good to talk to you again, Jackie.
Thank you, thank you. And you're not, I didn't even do you justice. You're a much bigger star than I even just described. But let me ask you a question. This question about you describing to me at that time that this is what's going to happen, that Russia is going to collapse, and this was about 15 years before it actually happened. And you found it in the Bible. How did you find that in the Bible?
Well, it was from studying Ezekiel chapters 36 through 38. And I knew that Russia would be a power, but they could not be a world-dominating power. And so I knew something had to happen to stop them, because they were well on their way in the 1970s toward becoming a world dominator. So I knew something had to happen. However, I knew that Russia would still be a mighty military power in the last days, though not a world conqueror, and that they would arm the Muslims and begin to help consolidate the Muslims, join their side in their quest against Israel and against leading the Middle East.
And so what do you predict now? What's going to happen with reference to Russia in the Middle East?
Well, I think they're very much inserting themselves again in the Middle East, especially in Iran. I mean, the world powers are all concerned that Iran is on the brink of getting nuclear-tipped missiles. And yet Russia is standing there going against the will of the whole world, and it's their experts that are helping them construct the facilities to build nuclear weapons. And they've even got Spetsnaz, some of their special forces, guarding these many scattered nuclear facilities in Iran. And this just shows their commitment to be a power broker and a leader among the communist world. I think that's where they see their way of still remaining a voice in world power.
So are you saying, therefore, that a war will sooner or later happen between us and Russia?
Yes.
You're predicting there'll be a war between us?
It'll be a war not just with
Russia?
the United States, but that I believe that Russia will lead a confederacy of Muslim nations headed by Iran in an attack against Israel. And this is going to trigger a response from the West, which at that time will be led by the Roman leader of the revived Roman Empire and China. They will all launch a counterattack against the Russian-led Muslim offensive.
And what do you think is going to be the outcome of this whole situation?
Well, once
America...
Russia leads the Muslim consortium against Israel, this will escalate to draw the whole world eventually into a global war, and that is the war we call Armageddon. It'll be so great that only the Messiah's return will save the world from self-destruction.
So you feel this is inevitable, that China, but right now, exactly the opposite is happening, because according to everything we read in the newspapers, China is going partners with Russia and all these new military testings and all military work together, that they're planning and plotting all this militarism together as a partnership. Now, do you think that this is the opposite of what you're saying, or is this part of what you're saying?
Well, I believe that once the Chinese see the Russians making a play to control the oil reserves of the world, that China, which needs, China has just entered the world market for oil. That's the reason we're paying $3 a gallon for gasoline.
Right.
They have to have a clear channel of oil. And if they see Russia reaching with the Muslims in to control all the oil fields of the world, they're going to counterattack.
So in other words, this illusion that most people here are believing is that the threat to the world right now is not from Russia, but from China. That's the way the world sees it. The greatest fear we have is the armament buildup of China, the new submarine fleets they're building and the new armaments they're building, and everybody is thinking there's an underground. What's his name, Rumsfeld,
yes,
just a couple of days ago said that China is lying to us about their buildup, and they're building up a huge amount of armaments that they're not admitting to the world is even going on. In plain English, they're defrauding the world while they're creating a powerhouse of armaments.
They're doing a similar thing that Japan did before World War II, only on a much grander scale. They are using their merchandise to get the money to build up ahead of us. And I believe, here's the sequence that I see in the Bible. Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 through 45, gives the battle plan. First, the Russians and the Muslims will attack Israel. Then they will sweep on down into Egypt to seek to consolidate the natural land bridge and the waterway going to all of the oil. At that time, there's going to be a counterattack to stop this. The Roman-led West is going to go after them, and the Chinese-led Asia are going to come with 200 million soldiers, according to the book of Revelation. Now, they will destroy this consortium, and that leaves the West facing China, and the last part, and the most horrific part of the last war will be between the Chinese-led Asians and the Roman-led West. So that's when, according to the book of Revelation, blood will stand to the horse's bridle for the space of 200 miles.
In other words, that will basically destroy the world as we know it.
It would destroy, it will destroy the world as we know it, but it won't destroy the world, because the Messiah is going to return. He's going to set up a new world order, and the Messiah, as the King of David promised all through the Old Testament, is going to rule over the world, and the remnant of Israel are going to be given all the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants, and they will be God's priest under him.
Wow.
So the new world he's going to create.
So a guy like me will be in good shape. In other words, I'll be doing good when this happens. If I just stay in good health and take my vitamins.
Yeah, that's right.
The Jews at that time are going to be partners with the Christians in ruling the world, and we'll be their priests.
Yes, that's
Is
right.
that it? So I'll be on top of the universe, and you'll be under me. Okay, let's. This is going to be a very interesting sort of questions I want to ask you, and we have a lot of callers who want to ask more questions. We're going to be right back with so much more we want to learn from you. And stay where you are, ladies and gentlemen.